Before the Great War, Europe was a continent simmering with tension and rivalry. The empires of Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia competed fiercely for colonies, resources, and power. Nationalism surged. Germans sought their place in the sun, the French brooded over Alsace-Lorraine, and Slavic peoples in the Balkans dreamed of independence. This pride and suspicion fueled an arms race. Germany expanded its navy, Britain responded, and armies across Europe swelled in size. Generals drew up aggressive war plans, convinced that speed and strength would decide any future conflict. The result was a continent armed to the teeth, where every nation watched its neighbors with suspicion. Massive armies and intricate mobilization plans created a hair-trigger mentality. War seemed not just possible, but inevitable, a solution to diplomatic deadlocks. Europe in 1914 was a powder keg, its fate hanging on a single spark. The old order was fragile and the world was about to change forever. The stage was set for catastrophe. The countdown to war had begun. To protect themselves, Europe's powers formed two rival alliances. The Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy promised mutual defense if attacked. In response, France and Russia allied, soon joined by Britain, forming the Triple Entente. These alliances were meant to deter war, but instead they created a rigid system where a conflict between two nations could drag in all the rest. Germany sought to isolate France, Austria-Hungary wanted security against Russia, and Italy hoped to boost its status. Britain, alarmed by Germany's naval ambitions, abandoned its isolation and joined France and Russia. By 1907, Europe was split into two armed camps, each suspicious of the other's intentions. Defensive pacts became traps. Any spark could trigger a continent-wide war. The web of alliances left little room for diplomacy or retreat. A local crisis now threatened to engulf all of Europe. The balance of power was dangerously unstable. The alliances that promised security now made catastrophe almost certain. The world waited for the first domino to fall. The spark came on June 28, 1914 in Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a young Serbian nationalist. The Archduke's visit was seen as a provocation by Serb nationalists who resented Austro-Hungarian rule. After a failed bombing attempt, a wrong turn brought the Archduke's car face-to-face with Princip. Two shots, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were dead within minutes. The assassination shocked Europe, but political murders were not new. What made this different was the tense, militarized climate of 1914. In Vienna, leaders saw the killing as a chance to crush Serbia and reassert dominance in the Balkans. The powder keg had finally been lit. The world held its breath as the crisis escalated. The countdown to war accelerated. The assassination triggered a diplomatic crisis known as the July Crisis. Austria-Hungary, fearing Russian intervention, sought Germany's support and received a blank check of unconditional backing. Emboldened, Austria-Hungary issued Serbia an ultimatum with demands no sovereign nation could fully accept. Serbia agreed to most terms but rejected those violating its sovereignty. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia mobilized to protect Serbia. Germany, fearing encirclement, declared war on Russia. Germany's war plan required a quick strike against France, so it declared war on France and invaded neutral Belgium. Britain, bound by treaty to defend Belgian neutrality, declared war on Germany. In just days, a regional dispute became a European war. The alliance system turned a single assassination into a global catastrophe. Mobilization schedules and war plans left no room for pause. The dominoes fell, one after another. The world plunged into conflict. The Great War had begun. There was no turning back. The war that followed was unlike anything before. Generals expected a quick victory, but new technology, machine guns, artillery, barbed wire, made defense deadly. Trench warfare on the Western Front created a 450-mile stalemate of mud, disease, and terror. Soldiers faced constant shelling, rats, and the horrors of no man's land. Offensives cost thousands of lives for little ground. The war spread beyond Europe. Battles raged in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and at sea. Empires called on colonial troops from around the world. The conflict became truly global, drawing in resources and people from every continent. The scale of destruction was unprecedented. The world was forever changed by the brutality of modern war. The first true World War had arrived. For years, the United States stayed neutral, seeing the war as Europe's problem. But German U-boats began sinking ships indiscriminately, including those with American passengers. The 1915 sinking of the Lusitania killed 128 Americans, turning public opinion against Germany. Germany paused submarine attacks, but by 1917, desperate to break the stalemate, resumed unrestricted warfare. American ships were sunk, and pressure on President Wilson mounted. Then came the Zimmermann telegram. Germany urged Mexico to join the war against the US in exchange for lost territory. The revelation outraged Americans and made neutrality impossible. On April 6, 1917, the US declared war on Germany. American entry tipped the balance, bringing fresh troops and resources to the Allies. The world's first global conflict now included the world's rising power. The tide of war was about to turn. The endgame had begun. American involvement gave the Allies the edge they needed. By 1918, Germany was exhausted, its allies collapsing and revolution brewing at home. On November 11, 1918, an armistice ended the fighting. The cost was staggering: over 16 million dead, entire generations lost, and economies shattered. The old empires, German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, Ottoman, vanished, replaced by fragile new nations. The 1919 Treaty of Versailles imposed harsh terms on Germany, fueling resentment and instability. Hopes for lasting peace faded as economic turmoil and bitterness spread. The war to end all wars instead sowed the seeds for future conflict. Extremist ideologies found fertile ground in the ruins. The world was forever changed, its scars deep and lasting. World War I's lessons echo through history. A single event in the right climate can reshape the world. The story of the Great War is a warning and a reminder of the cost of unchecked rivalry and fear.